Hey guys, welcome to my new video. As usual, I'm going to cover Gaza, China, and I'm going to cover Russia and Ukraine today. So without further ado, let's carry on with the show. And don't forget to like and share. I really appreciate it. It helps the algorithm, and also if you comment as well. So I'm just laughing at this BBC headline. Israel accused of deadly strike on Iranian consulate in Syria. Can you see the writing that's used by BBC? Israel accused. So who else is gonna be bloody bombing these Iranian consulate? Oh, come on. These BBC twats. So what's happened today is Israel has actually bombed the Iranian consulate in Syria. And as you know, any consulate in any country, that is not that is basically, if you blow up any consulate in any country, that is like, you know, you're basically blowing up another country's soil. For example, when NATO bombed the Chinese embassy in in Yugoslavia at the time, in Serbia, that was Chinese property. That's like bombing China basically. So that is like an act of war when you start bombing other countries' embassies. And so Israel is obviously trying to escalate things. They're trying to escalate this conflict. I'm not going to say war. I'm going to say conflict. It's not really a war. It's just, it's basically mass genocide. And they want to try and drag on this conflict as long as possible. They want to, bring in Hezbollah. They want to bring in Syria because they're bombing Syria. They want to bring in Iran because they're bombing the Iranian embassy. And they've also killed a number of Iranian IRGC members as well. And so the Iranians are not very happy. So they're trying to bring in Iranians into this conflict. And if the Iranians come into this conflict, the Americans will obviously join in as well. And it's just going to escalate. And the reason they want to bring in Iranians is because obviously Netanyahu, he doesn't want to be kicked out of power. There are huge amounts of demonstrations happening in Israel. Everybody wants him out at the moment. So it's in Netanyahu's interest to kind of prolong this war, keep this war going as long as possible, let the Americans fund Israel as long as possible, and bring Iranians in. And if the Israelis can get the Americans to have a war with Iran and take out Iran, then it's a job well done for the Israelis, right? Because they used the Americans to take out their arch enemies last time, which was Iraq. And they've used the Americans to take out Syria. Syria is so much more weaker now than it was, way back in the day. So they've used the Americans to kind of destabilize all of their enemies in the Middle East. And Iran is the last, enemy left, apart from the Houthis. We'll go to the Houthis next. Apart from the Houthis and Hezbollah, obviously, Iran is the kind of the main head of the snake, because Iran is, obviously funding, giving weapons to Hezbollah, giving weapons to the Houthis. So if they can take out Iran, Israel thinks that has all their problems solved. And if they can use Americans to do it, American taxpayers' money, American military, American lives, then it's a win-win for Israel, right? So that's their biggest plan. That's one of the reasons why they kind of bombed the Iranian embassy. And again, the world is pretty much silent. And I'm just showing you this BBC article. It's just hilarious, the fact that Israel is accused of deadly strike. It's just beyond a joke. It's absolutely beyond a joke. So the Iranians have made a statement. They said that they will kind of respond in their own way. They also hold the Americans responsible. And within hours, some American bases in Syria and in Iraq got attacked by drones and missiles. And I would probably estimate there was going to be more escalations over the next few days. But we don't know how Iran will respond against Israel. And I'm not even sure if they will. Because Iran is not in a position to have a war with Israel or the United States or to escalate things. So I'm not sure how they will respond. So we'll see. We'll see what happens over the next few days. There have been other issues in Gaza. They've absolutely blew up Al-Shifa hospital. I mean, the horrors, some of the pictures coming out of the hospital are absolute horrors, basically. Just, women and kids being killed and, patients being killed and buried alive. And, it's quite hard to describe, guys. It really is hard. And another thing they've done, they've blew up a UN aid company with 5 aid workers on board, and there were some British aid workers in there as well. And again, you can see some of these British headlines. British aid worker killed in airstrike after delivering food to Gaza, Hamas says. Can you see at the end? Hamas says. So, oh my God, these headlines are just ridiculous, guys. So yeah, they basically blew up his aid truck, and I'm not going to show you all the pictures because I'm going to get demonetized and the channel will be struck down. But you can see on Twitter and stuff, basically there's British aid workers, they've got the uniforms on and they've just been blown and killed. And there's other nationalities as well, like Polish, Australians. And yeah, it's just a shame. Israel is going around doing whatever they want. And even yesterday, there's been huge amounts of weapons being delivered to Israel. And, I don't know if you remember the UN vote I think last week actually, where the Americans basically voted for a non-binding, with quotes, I'm just saying, they're saying it's a non-binding quote, but every single Security Council that gets voted through is binding, guys. Don't let Americans fool you saying it's non-binding. It's only non-binding when it's not in their interests, but it's only binding when it's in American interests. So after that resolution that got signed, I think Netanyahu kind of decided not to send a delegation to United States, and there was a bit of friction going on between the two countries. But then they've made up very quickly because the Americans have been sending loads of weapons and money to Israel over the past few days. 3 shipments a day have been going into Israel with weapons. And obviously you've seen today what they've done with the weapons. They're just blowing up Syria, blowing up the Iranian consulate. And they've been bombing, obviously, Gaza as well. And you've seen they've destroyed the hospital, absolutely destroyed the hospital. So this death toll in Gaza has been rising as well. And now there's no hospital to kind of cure the wounded. They have pretty much destroyed every single hospital there is. I think there's not many left, not many working anyway. They've taken out the power and, completely destroyed Gaza, guys. Completely destroyed. This is an absolute genocide. They're not letting any aid in as well. They are basically drop shipping aid to Gaza. And the people in Gaza, they are basically, I've seen some Al Jazeera interviews. People in Gaza were saying that they'd rather die from starvation than eat, these airdrops that are coming through from America, because these airdrops are coming, they're basically non-halal, and some of them got like pork and stuff like that, and pork based additives, gluten, beef and stuff like that, which is non-halal as well. And And the Palestinians are saying that basically they're trying to humiliate us, so we're not going to eat all this stuff. They're basically treating us like dogs. And they can easily like let the aid in through all of these aid points that are kind of blocked by the Israelis, and there's a lot of kind of protesters blocking aid going into Gaza as well. So if Israel wanted, they could have just let the aid in, but they're not letting it in, and these aid drops are just kind of humiliating the Palestinians. The Americans decided to build some sort of port there in Gaza, but again, people are saying it's not really a port. That port is there for other reasons. Number one, they want to ship people out of Gaza. Obviously, this is called ethnic cleansing. So they're going to ship them out and they're going to distribute them in various countries. They're going to send some to America. They're going to send some to Europe. They're going to send others to other Middle Eastern countries. And Israel is basically going to ethnically cleanse the people. And the second reason that port is there is to kind of start extracting some of the gas from some of the oil fields and gas fields that are there's 500 billion worth of gas fields right next to Gaza, beaches and stuff. So people are saying that could be another reason why they're building a port. But the point is, they could easily let all this aid in, but they're not. And there's people, and kids just dying of starvation. There's pictures of it all over Twitter. It really is sad to see, guys. Really is sad to see. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic. So the British knows that this has been a genocide. And this lady has basically admitted that what's happening is a genocide. And David Cameron's got a lot of answering to do. And I think if all of this basically comes into light at some point there's going to be some sort of inquiry about, all of this tapes that are being leaking out and stuff like that. Because remember during COVID, there's all these leaks coming out and stuff, but nothing was done. But it was only after COVID, that Mike Hancock started getting sacked, and all these Boris Johnson got sacked for his parties and stuff. So there will become a time when people will look back and say, did Britain do enough to stop this genocide? And the answer is going to be no. I'm going to play this clip and let you guys kind of listen to what she says, basically. Sorry guys, seems like I cannot upload the recording because every time I upload the recording and I try to upload the video, YouTube rejects it, so it doesn't like that recording. So I'm going to have to kind of describe it and redo this video again. And you can see from the headlines, UK government lawyers say Israel is breaking international law, claims the top Tory in leaked recording. And she clearly says that UK knows there's a genocide going on and UK is basically trying to support Israel and stuff like that. So David Cameron is basically under a lot of trouble, and you can see from this article here, he's basically the foreign secretary at the moment, and he is basically responsible for the British response to all this genocide that's going on. So instead of doing something about this genocide, and instead of kind of stopping weapon sales to Israel or sanctioning Israel or just standing up and saying what Israel is doing is wrong, at least doing the right things. Instead of that, what does he do? He basically put sanctions on China. I'm not joking, guys. This guy, rather than doing anything about all this genocide going on, and obviously he's in support of everything that's going on, and with all this pressure that's on him, he decides to stand up and sanction China. And I mean, look at this video here. I don't know if you guys seen any hostage videos where, you know, when some criminals hold a hostage and they basically force the hostage to read out lines in front of the camera. So you're obviously reading out lines in front of the camera, but you know, you're obviously like forced to do it. So look at Cameron. He's basically forced to do this. So check it out. So it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, come on. So this is basically a tactic the British are using. Instead of being blamed for what's happening with the genocide, they decided to kind of shift the blame and start blaming China and stuff like that. And this is what the British do very well. So while these sanctions were going on by the UK, by the way, this was what was happening in China. China was basically leading a delegation of US business CEOs, and these were from major companies in the United States that have come to China, not the other way around. They have come to China, they have traveled to China to meet with Xi Jinping, and they're obviously discussing business deals and stuff like that, and try and kind of win-win and make more money and things like that, while the British are too busy sanctioning China. So the British are quite stupid, first of all, for many reasons. Number one, they have made an enemy out of China. They are using David Cameron here because David Cameron had a good relationship with China once upon a time. So they're using him, and this is why this video is quite funny, because you can see it almost looks like he's like a hostage, and he's made to make this video in front of the camera and basically put sanctions on China. And it seems like maybe he didn't want to do it, but he was forced to do it. But he did it anyway. So end of the day, it's his face and his voice. And not only Liz Truss was not even, not only this Liz Truss and David, I think it was Cleverly before him, not even they did anything like this, not even anything similar, come in front of the camera and say, oh, we're going to place sanctions on China. Not even they were brave enough to do that, but they basically getting David Cameron to do this. Absolutely hilarious, guys, absolutely hilarious. And it's a win-win for the British neocons, because they know David Cameron is liked in China, so they decided to destroy his reputation, and they decided to kind of sanction China as well. So it's a win-win for the British neocons. Secondly, the British are alienating themselves. They are destroying their relationship with every single country. So obviously China, they've destroyed their relationship with. They've also destroyed the relationship with Russia. They've destroyed the relationship with the EU after Brexit. They've destroyed the relationship with the Middle East because of them standing with Israel. And they've obviously destroyed the relationship with African countries because of the past colonialism and slavery and things like that. So Britain has not got many friends left in the world, guys. They are absolutely isolating themselves. Utterly, sorry to use the word stupid, but this is utterly stupid. There's no other better words for it. And it's beyond a joke right now. Absolutely beyond a joke. So there's... Obviously, there's stuff that's happening around the world. There's the Russian-Ukraine conflict. There's a Gaza conflict. But there could be another conflict just down the road. You can see The US Marines are training for war with China on an island hopping. They're basically based in Kinmen Island, and Kinmen Island is owned by Taiwan Island, and it's right next to Xiamen. Xiamen is a Chinese city on the coast, and apparently US troops are there training Taiwanese to fight China. It's not going to make much of a difference because Kinmen is only like 2 kilometers away from Xiamen, and Xiamen's basically building an airport right next to Kinmen Islands as well. So once this airport is built, they're literally going to be 2 kilometers away, and they were thinking of building a bridge to Kinmen Island as well. So I'm not sure if that's going to happen. But also there's other points of conflict as well. There's also the South China Sea as well. The Filipinos are basically pushing for war with China as well. Filipinos looks like they want to be the next Ukraine. And these Filipino, are basically ramming their ships against the Chinese Coast Guard, and the Chinese Coast Guards are using water cannons against them. And Marcos Jr. has recently come out, and he's been obviously slating China for it. And they're also saying that there is a defense pact between the Philippines and the US, and they said that if any Filipino sailor dies or anything like that, then they will kick off that defense pact, and there could be war apparently. So that's what they're saying. But if there is a war, Filipinos have got no chance whatsoever. So I think Filipinos are banking on American help, and the same way Americans are helping Ukraine, they probably think the Americans are going to help the Philippines as well. The difference between Filipinos and Ukraine is, number one, Filipinos are probably the lowest in terms of priorities for the US. The highest priority for the US is probably Israel, then it comes to Taiwan, then Ukraine. They don't care about the Filipinos. And the one good thing about the Filipinos is they have a huge population. I think it's around 220 million or something. And Ukraine's population is around 20 million. It was 20 million, obviously not now. And so there's a huge amount of people that the Americans can use as cannon fodder to fight against China. So that's the American, view. So they've basically destroyed all the Ukrainians, killed off all the Ukrainians. Now they want to kill off all the Filipinos to fight China. I think that's their plan. But there's obviously they're probably planning for the next conflict, so in Taiwan or South China Sea, the Americans, and they could probably want to push for it. So I don't know if it's going to be the Biden admin that does it, or whether Trump comes in or does it, or the guy after that. But either way, it looks like there's could be something brewing on that neck of the woods. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So this brings me on to Ukraine and Russia. As you know, some people attacked Russia, Russian concert hall, and obviously 140 people died or something like that. They burned the whole building as well. And the Western papers are blaming ISIS. You can see this is from, I think it's from The Guardian or something. No, Independent. So they said, why ISIS attacked Russia? So the British papers and the Western papers are blaming ISIS, but Russians are blaming Ukraine. And the reason Russia blames Ukraine is because ISIS is an ideology. They don't, when they go to a mission, it's a one-way trip. They know they're not coming back. It's a martyr mission. So these guys basically, apparently they took money, and when's the last time you heard an ISIS guy take money for a job? It doesn't happen. These guys blow themselves up for ideologies. They don't blow themselves up for money. So these guys apparently took money from the dark web, and after they did the job, they started running away. When's the last time you heard an ISIS guy did a job and running away? I mean, these guys, when they go to kill innocent civilians or do some sort of terrorism job, they know it's a one-way trip, and they either kill themselves or they die in battle. That's how it works. So these guys took some money, did the job, and started running for the borders in Ukraine. And I don't know about you, but I don't know any ISIS members that do this. And secondly, why were these guys running towards the borders of Ukraine? So obviously they know where they were going, and they know, who they're going to meet and how they're going to escape. This was all planned. And this is why Russia believes that it was Ukraine that did it. ISIS has no reason to attack Russia. In fact, ISIS has more reason to attack Israel and America and Europe for what's happening in Palestine. ISIS got no reason whatsoever to attack Russia. So you see, so the Western papers are, they're full of blame game going on, blaming ISIS, but it's just a diversion tactic. And Russia knows that. Russia knows these are Ukrainian guys sent across the border to attack Russian targets. And they've done it in the past. They've done it with drones, obviously, and stuff like that. But they're now they're escalating. And Russia's escalating as well. So you can see they've taken out Kharkiv. There's no power in Kharkiv anymore. And I think Kharkiv is going to be the next city that Russia takes. And once Kharkiv is gone, pretty much the east of Ukraine is going to go all the way up to the Dnieper River, and there's not going to be any stopping the Russian onslaught. And already they are taking more and more land every single day. After Avdiivka, the Ukrainian troops are just collapsing, absolutely collapsing, and there's no other fortifications close enough to Avdiivka, basically. So these guys are running back. They've also run out of missiles, Patriot missiles, anti-aircraft missiles. So there's a lot of airplanes who are dropping bombs, and helicopters and missiles dropping bombs all over Ukraine at the moment. And the casualty figures have gone up 4 times compared to how many were dying per day in Ukraine. So the Ukrainians are taking huge casualties over the past week or so since this. So apparently Kharkiv they've been sending a lot of letters through the post and dropping lots of letters as well, air shipment letters all over Kharkiv, apparently telling the residents to leave. So apparently people are and now that Kharkiv got no power, they have no kind of option but to leave as well, because when you have no power, you can't cook food, you can't have showers, there's a lot of things you can't do. So a lot of people will start leaving the city, and I think and this process has already started now. So Russia's gonna take off its gloves and start taking Kharkiv, because they have to take Kharkiv because it's close to the Russian border. So it's for their own security, because at the moment, there are people. It's a huge border between Ukraine and Russia there, and there's people going in and out of the border. They can't have a man, they can't have a man on every single meter of that border. It's impossible, because we're talking about thousands and thousands of kilometers. So they're going to have to kind of build a natural barrier, which is the Dnieper River. So they're going to go all the way to the Dnieper River, blow up the bridges. So if any Ukrainians want to come and start attacking Russian targets, they're going to have to cross the river. And if anyone crosses the river, they'll be taken out, because there's going to be a lot of monitoring stations and drones and things like that. So it's much easier to kind of have security when you have a massive river basically blocking Russia and Ukraine. So I think that's the plan. They're also going to take Odessa as well. And the reason they're going to take Odessa is because of Crimea and the Black Sea Fleet. And as long as Odessa is there, there's going to be a danger to Crimea. There's going to be a danger to Russian ships and shipping. So they're going to have to take Odessa. There's no other option. So they're going to take all of the eastern part of Ukraine and also Odessa, and I think they will probably stop after that. Anyway, I'm going to finish for the day. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care for now. Bye.